Hey all, this is Devin. Turn up the volume. We are here for another week of, or another day of my podcast, Writing Daily, where we give you writers tips and things to do that will improve your writing and help you grow as a writer. Today is actually not a writing tip. It's actually for once you've gotten a couple articles done and you want to start putting yourself out there. And probably the best way to do that is a literary reading. Today I'm giving you 6 really solid tips to get you started so you know what to do, how to start practicing to get your writing down. Anyway, today's tip comes from what happened like an hour ago. Every first Sunday of the month, I have a writers group that we meet in my living room and we share our work. And today I did some reading from my upcoming book. And by the way, Devin Galaudet, the editor-in-chief of In the Know Traveler, as well as I have a MFA in creative nonfiction and my forthcoming book, 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes. So all that said, I was reading the first few pages of that book for my group for sort of like a final criticism before we start moving into galleys. So that said, I realized that while I was reading it, I was not pleased with the way that I was reading it. And I don't think it was coming across in a way that I was, like, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't, something that I would feel good about if I had done it live. So I thought about what's the next logical thing here is to talk about the things that I have done that absolutely have worked before. And I want to give those things to you right now. And by the way, if you're here, always say hello in this box. Let me know that you're around. If you have a like, hit the wow button, leave your question, your comment. I answer everything all the time. And so if you are with me on Facebook, like me, subscribe, same thing with YouTube, Twitter, all that kind of fun stuff. But now back to the important stuff. So this is all about reading your work. There it is. Blue and white. So my number one tip is to, and this is probably, if there is one tip that was the most crucial of them all that I'm going to be giving you now, this is probably it. And this is to practice in front of a mirror. It's really important because I think what ends up happening is people don't know how they look when they're performing. Now you're probably saying, well, how am I going to know how I look when I'm reading when I'm actually reading? Well, the idea here is that you do not want to actually look like you are reading. If your head is like, if you've got a manuscript in front of your face, in front of an audience, I promise you there's going to be far less connection to that audience rather than having to engage with them in some way. So that brings us to step 2, which is a minimum of 50 times. That means you want to be reading this thing over and over and over again in the mirror until you get to sections where you know exactly what's coming up. That will allow you to kind of take pauses, read from the script, and actually engage with your audience. What I personally like to do is I want to be in a place where I can engage and literally check out different people within the room. I think that's one of the stronger things to do, or be able to scan to some degree. There are some people who are particularly shy, and so then what they may end up doing instead of engaging directly with individuals throughout the room is that they may actually look over the tops of everybody's head and sort of out into the audience. If you've ever been to a literary reading before, frequently there's some sort of a stage or a dais, something that's slightly elevated. So when you're looking out above the audience, it's not so obvious. It kind of seems normal. So, but still, I would say that a great guideline would be to read this in front of a mirror about 50 times so that you're looking to actually engage with yourself in that mirror. Okay, tip number 3 is keep your body still. There is a habit that a lot of people have gotten into that I've seen at literary readings where somebody's kind of crossing their arms or they're reading like this and they're shifting side to side. And it's just telling the audience that you're a little bit uncomfortable with what you're doing. And it's a bit of a turnoff. And again, you're talking about these little fine things, but if you're selling a book, you want to look as confident in your material as possible. So read a lot and then kind of understand that staying focused and centered is going to be useful to your audience in focusing on the words you're saying rather than your body shifting back and forth and carrying your weight in different positions. Step number 4, make eye contact. Again, I think this is probably more of an advanced thing, but wherever possible, if you are directly engaging with somebody, let's say if you've, after reading 50 times, you know a big chunk of what you're about to say by heart, then I think it's a great way to kind of like say a line directly to someone. That means you're engaging them in a conversation, and I think that's kind of an ideal way to develop sales and develop a following. And these little small things over a long period of time add up. Like, I want people to feel like that they are engaged with me in whatever the story it is that I'm telling, and I think it's an important tool. Step number 5, speak into the mic. This goes back to kind of keeping your body still. I've been at a whole lot of literary readings during the course of my life. And, a lot of people are terrific at it. And some people are kind of bouncing around and shifting their weight and doing that kind of thing. And frequently you've got a mic that is directly in front of you. And you want to, even if you're turning your head this way, to be conscious of the fact that wherever you're going is that your mic wants to be in front of your mouth. Because if all of a sudden you shift over, and I've seen this happen more than once, where somebody's speaking right into the microphone, you're in a fairly large room, and the mic amplifies the whole room, and you're speaking in one way in terms of your volume, and then you shift weight and you move away from the microphone, and all of a sudden you went from people being able to hear you to people not being able to hear you at all. And because you may be wrapped up in what you're doing, nobody's going to say, "Hey, speak into the mic, clown face." So, everybody's going to be much too polite for that. So you want to make sure that you're really mindful that your microphone is here all the time. So regardless if you're turning your head to engage somebody else, that mic is going to be directly in front of your mouth. Finally, is that if you're going to be reading a particular thing from a book or a poem or whatever it is that you're going to be reading from, make it a really, really solid one. Make it perhaps your best, most interesting piece. I think there's probably a philosophy that says, no, you want to hold it back. You want to dial it back, so when somebody buys your book, they're going to be, uncovering all kinds of incredible things, and hopefully you've just whetted their appetite. I would actually argue the opposite thing, is that for somebody to be interested in you, you're going to have to do something pretty remarkable. Because anytime somebody turns on the internet or goes to Facebook, everybody is vying for their attention. And when you have somebody in front of you at a literary reading, you want to engage them as quickly and as strongly as possible. So I would suggest that you go after it, make it your best stuff, or the stuff that you're most confident in, or your stuff that you know that if you're going to deliver it is a slam dunk. I have a friend, Tony Ann Johnson, who wrote a wonderful book. And what I remember most is the way that she delivered it, because her book sort of bounces back from sort of like, like American English to sort of like a Bahamian English, a Bahamian accent. And it is like she delivered that like crazy. And clearly she had practiced. Clearly she was engaging her audience. Clearly she was like reading one of the most seminal moments from her piece, and she really was delivering it. So like, I was going to buy the book anyway because I'm friends with her, and I want to support the cause. But if I was a stranger, I would be like, wow, she just crushed it, and I want to read her book. So all of these little things, like, you never know who's going to be showing up in your, in your literary audience. They might be just at a bookstore and you just happen to be there. This is the moment you want to grab that stranger and you want to go, I've written something and I'm going to crush it. So I need your full undivided attention. Anyway, so that's what we've got today. I'm going to go back again through them really quickly. Did I already do this? Yes. Turn up the volume. That's just to remind you so you can hear me. Read your work as often as possible. Practice in front of a mirror a minimum of 50 times, people. Really make sure that you have this material you're reading right on the tip of your tongue. Keep your body still so people can pay attention to your reading and not your body language. Make eye contact so you can really engage in individuals in your audience. Speak into your mic, because if you're at a big event, you want to make sure that everybody in the room is hearing exactly what you have to say, and pick something really important and exciting and engaging. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. As always, make sure that you fill out these forms in these boxes on the side. Subscribe on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and always you can find me at devingalaudet.com, which I've put in the description here. And we do this every day because there's so much to talk about writing, and we're all here to improve and get better at it. Anyway, we will talk to you soon, and thanks for being here today.